Hello and welcome to Comp. Coming to you not live, but from New York City, the epicenter of the epidemic. My throat's a bit scratchy, I'm a bit clammy, but I don't think I have COVID. I have not left my house in a month. I don't know. I am joined today by a very special guest, the illustrious, the magnanimous, the benevolent, the charitable, the giver of life to nurses. He gives life to the people who give life. Welcome to the show, Tim Dillon.
I imagine there will be an award.
There should be.
I don't want to be presumptuous, but I imagine there'll be some type of award for the fact that I bought lunch from Pasta Pomodoro in Jersey and had them deliver it to the doctors and nurses there.
Let's be honest. I mean, the doctors, maybe not, but the nurses, the best meal they probably ever had in their life.
Yeah, it's also funny because, like, I just imagine a bunch of fat, sluggish nurses full of, like, chicken parm, penne alla vodka.
You just loaded them up with
chicken.
chicken.
Barely work.
You just carved them up. It's ready to take a nap.
You're, like, passing out.
You know someone's grandma's dead because you fucking gave them too many breadsticks.
Yeah, I just imagine, like, the guy who's running the floor is like, enough with the chicken franchise. People are dying.
Do you think people
They're
are
fucking dying?
Do you think people? Oh no, I guess it takes away your sense of smell, which is the only saving. Because I think it'd be hilarious for people to be dying and going like, "What, you having a fucking a quinceañera? Not quinceañera. What do Italians have? A tarantella?"
Who knows?
Be funny just they're just smelling chicken franchise and goes, there's coughing, hitting the button.
Yeah, people keep saying it takes away your sense of smell, but doesn't every sickness when you're really sick, do you ever taste like you used to? Like, you know, when you're really sick with something, man, you don't want to eat.
Well, I mean, it's usually not. It's not the taste buds. Usually, it's the vomiting and the shitting. But yeah, I hear you.
You know,
what did you make the menu, or did you just tell them like get them something nice? How'd that go?
I called up. I said, "Listen, I got 100 people. What are we doing?" And she goes, "How about penne alla vodka?" I said, "Great." She goes, "What about chicken parm?" I said, "Phenomenal."
Right.
I said, "Let's do something vegetarian. How about eggplant parm?" She goes, "Great." She goes, "We should probably do one more." I'm like, "How about a pasta?"
They upsold you?
And then she goes, "No." Well, yeah, she goes, 100 people.
Yeah.
So she goes, each tray feeds like around 25. So she goes, "Let's do a pasta primavera is very popular." I said, "That sounds great." You know?
She got in I mean, honestly, these people, they deserve the timpana? You couldn't have gotten them a nice timpana?
Oh, yeah, from Big Night.
Yeah.
Yeah, the special dish from Big Night. What a great allegory Big Night is for so many things in the world, you know?
Sure.
Like, the little shitty restaurant that has a great chef that wants to make really good food, and then the big just bucket of tomato sauce that does well,
right?
Like, a few blocks away. And it's impossible to feel bad for the failing restaurant, which is why I love the movie so much. Because, like, even though you want this to succeed, you know why they won't. You know, and you also, it's just so interesting. It's a good movie. It's actually a good movie that people should see if they haven't seen it.
No,
Big Night.
Big Night's great.
Yeah.
What's the other one? The guy
Isabella Rossellini, right?
Isabella Rossellini.
Great.
Tony Shalhoub, phenomenal.
Yeah, Stanley Tucci, right? Or am I wrong?
Stanley Tucci, yeah. It's Stanley Tucci and Tony Shalhoub are brothers in the movie.
Yeah, so many people forget how many of these guys got their start in 90s TV. You know, it's very interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Stanley Tucci was on a show called Murder One, which ran for 2 seasons on ABC. The first season, it was this bald. It was the first season. It was clearly like they were trying to like capture the energy of like the O.J. Simpson trial because they had one trial last the whole season, and there was this guy, this bald lawyer named Teddy, and it was this actor, this big bald guy. And then the next season, they had Anthony LaPaglia. They had like multiple trials, and it just failed.
That guy
Yeah, which guy?
Anthony LaPaglia. He's like first of all, he's like a photocopy of someone else. He's like the second. I can't place who.
Yeah.
But they tried to shove him into everything. He's like the poor man's like Alec Baldwin or something.
Yes. Yeah, that's exactly what he is. It's a great way to say it. He was a poor man's Alec Baldwin. They tried the Murder One. The great thing about Teddy was he was like the guy that played him, Daniel, but I think his name was like, almost like Benghazi. I forget what his name is, but like he was mysterious. He was a good actor, and it was 90s TV. And Stanley Tucci was in Murder One. It was funny. Like I think he might have like might have had a role in NYPD Blue too. Like he might have done like a lot of these guys had guest starring roles.
Oh, they jump around, yeah. I mean, yeah, Frazier, who's in the Pentagon Wars, which not as big of a film, but it was a great film. Did you see the Pentagon Wars?
Like a lot of the people. Yeah, what'd you say?
The Pentagon Wars. It was an HBO film about the basically the Pentagon corruption. They were trying to build the Bradley fighting vehicle, and just the amount of like pork and just like ineptitude and corruption, which was also a great allegory for this pandemic. Just because like it's. Yeah. Every fucking contract that's probably being made right now is just let's sit on it for a week and make them really and like bid it up. Let's bid it up.
Yeah, I have not seen that, but it is certainly interesting because, like, everybody that's when the government hands out money. Everybody's going to line up. Every business is going to line up. I just thought it was so funny the other day, like businesses trying to make themselves seem essential that clearly aren't.
Look at the My Pillow guy and the fucking who's making masks? Fucking fucking Joanne. Do you see Joanne when they announced that everyone should wear a mask in public?
I just love the guy from Jockey Underwear got up there and he's like, "We've been making underwear for this country for a long time." I'm like, stick to the fucking. What does that have to do with anything?
People love our panties.
Yeah, you put your cock in something nice, makes you feel good. It's like,
you better bail us out, Trump.
Yeah, I mean, it really is how America would end, where it's like the CEO of Buffalo Wild Wings is making ventilators.
It would be so great. It's like because like our French Revolution or equivalent would not be like people being like accounted for their sins against the people. It would just be like there'd be a public dole that'd be announced, and there's all these fucking Yahoo like CEOs would be like, "Well, here's where I should get a cut." It's just everyone gets who's getting a cut of the fucking tax money or whatever, the stimulus.
Oh yeah, dude. I mean, everybody's at the trough, and why not?
Did you see this Pentagon guy? I guess he's like a general, whoever, but like he was at a press conference at the White House, I think, and they're questioning why are you like giving these supplies that are coming, these emergency supplies, you're giving them to private companies, and he's just going, look, these people have supply chains, they have warehouses, I'm not trying to disrupt supply chains here, but it's so clearly because he's probably not that corrupt, this guy, so it's just so funny to watch like career. I mean, not that I'm like no one's crying for the generals, but it is kind of funny to see like because you're a good soldier, he's got play the line, so it's just so funny to see him have to like kind of account for someone else's corruption and like justify it.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I kind of know, I'm not watching the news conferences as much as I was. In the beginning, I was watching them every day. And then you quickly, like comedically, they exhaust their potential after a while because like, you've just seen it. You've seen it. You kind of made all the jokes you can make about it.
Right.
And then you start realizing that there's no news coming out of these things. You know what I mean? Like, there's no actionable news. So you just kind of sit back and you're like, hey, let me know when we're going to camps or let me know when we got a vaccine. Like, that's kind of where I'm at now, where I'm like, I'm at the point in the quarantine where I'm like, if it gets much better or much worse, I'm sure I'll know. Right. But other than that, it's like there's 90 million articles now that are just all of these models and projections and predictions. And it's like, yeah, none of that has any value to me or most people.
They're making us everyone wear masks, or asking everyone to wear masks. And so Joanne, Joanne's Fabrics, that store where you go to buy like
cotton
Joanne's
Fabrics, yeah.
So they announced that they were donating or like scrap like the materials to make masks to the hospitals with kits. Like to show you how to make them, and then some employee leaks. They just this stuff is all coming out of their clearance bin. This isn't real shit. And it's just like, how the idea of like Joanne's just like donating their trash, going like, hey, why don't you use this in the hospital?
Yeah. I mean, we're such a. You know what's interesting about this country in the position that we're in right now is that. It's kind of hilarious that, we weren't even in a recession before this. Like, things were so good before this.
Right.
that like even with 9/11, like we were on an economic downturn, like things were obviously 9/11 was a paradigm shift, but like, you know, there's something interesting about the idea of we were like riding the highest we've ever been. Now we're heading to the lowest we've ever been. And it was like almost overnight. It was like 1 week and there was nothing prepared.
To be fair, I mean, like, look, in 06 and 07, like before the '08 crash, you know, people were able to like refinance their houses and like there was tons of like opportunity. Like the wealth was shared on that. And like there was tons of people, like, you know, builders, contractors, everyone's getting refis, people buying, you know, and sort of using that money to like do whatever, you know, go on vacation in addition to, you know, whatever. In this one, it's purely, it really was just a pure stock inflation boom. It really wasn't, I'm not saying the economy was completely fucked, but a lot of people were holding, I mean, ever since, I don't know what the veracity of all this, but they've been saying since the '08 crash, like, most of these people, you know, are holding 2 or 3 jobs for the job they had before. You know, I mean, to make the same amount of money.
We know that. You know that.
Yeah.
Economists know that. People that follow things know that. I'm talking about like on Main Street, the attitude that like things were so good, not for everyone, and it don't. You know, obviously there's no health care and they're rotted out, but there was never any of that. Right. You know what I mean? Like there was never any of that. So like just cash on hand, you work a shift at a restaurant, you walk out with 300 bones. Like that coming to zero, like the job, they don't exist. Like jobs literally vaporize. Like they don't exist anymore. Like, oh, you worked at a resort, it doesn't exist. You worked on a cruise line, it's criminal now. Right. Like it's just from the highest, like from just things are good to things are, it's like beyond bad. They're like over, and no one knows when they're going back to happening. It's just a weird psychological, like I talk to people that still feel kind of in shock. Like people feel like people have this weird attitude where they're like kind of like, what happened? It's like you really just got stunned. It's like you fell off your bike, you got hit, you don't know what happened. People still aren't processing what's happened.
Well, look, I'm a relatively informed. I'm not, you know, I don't read the news as much as I should per se. But I'm a reasonably informed guy. People don't think I'm an idiot. And even up until like a week or two before, I knew about the virus. I'd heard about it. I skimmed some articles. But yeah, I was on the podcast saying like, look, I'm not like telling people not to worry, but like stop panicking. And you know, and look, I'm never gonna, you know, I'll be getting murdered. Lucy will be fucking, you know, be shot in front of me. I'm like, don't panic. It's gonna be fine. I don't like the panic per se, but it came out of nowhere. Even if you kind of were looking at it, I mean, maybe I don't know if it should have. Maybe we were all kind of,
dude. I mean, of course it did. I just love the idea of you still trying to order like food from a wet market in China and have it shipped. Like, listen, I have a lifestyle. I want pangolin and I want it delivered. Like.
People die of the flu every year. Don't give me that shit.
I mean, it's just like overnight we're in this weird situation where I'm like, I don't know. You know, here's what's funny about this whole situation. And I mean, I don't know that it's funny because it's the end of the world, but it is kind of funny. Like, you're just in this, like, we still have Instagram. We still have Twitter. We still have social media. We still have, you know, but you're starting to realize now that, like, at least I'm kind of starting to realize that, like, oh, you didn't really need people.
Right.
And, like, you don't need any of these. Like, you can make money. If you're in the business I'm in, this is very few people are in this position.
Right.
But I'm like, oh, I don't need any. Like, I didn't need a manager. I didn't need an agent. I didn't need all of these people. I could kind of just go online and share my thoughts. And if they're funny enough, people will buy them or pay to hear more of them. And I only need one producer. I don't need a studio. My studio's in my house. I don't need, like, it's simplified everything. And I think that, like, a lot of people are like, yeah, maybe there's a lot of companies that are like, we don't need these massive office spaces. We can scale down. We can downsize. I think I'm like, I don't need to fly every weekend and do stand-up comedy. Like, I love stand-up, but, like, I'm killing myself flying every fucking weekend to do stand-up comedy. It's ridiculous. Like, I can just kind of simplify and pare down. And I mean, that's a luxury position to be in, 100%. But I wonder how many people are having that thought where they're like, yeah, I don't need. How many friends do you? Let's be honest. How many friends do you really miss?
I mean, I only have like 2 friends, and I barely see them.
Well,
So.
this is what I mean. It's like you don't miss a lot of You
Right.
don't miss a lot of people. That's what's interesting.
No, look,
You
I mean,
miss the freedom to like go out and go places. You don't miss a lot of people.
people say that human beings are social animals, but I've never thought so. I've never felt that myself.
Right.
I never.
Right.
I mean, look, there is a thing though. I do remember like when I was in my like early 20s. I guess part of it's living with your parents, because like I couldn't stay home. I wanted to get out. Now like the young people disgust me. If a restaurant packed with young people or a theater packed with young people. Way before this. I mean, now it's just, you think about like you hear everyone coughing and freaking out if it was even, but I can't stand joy. Young people's joy, I find aggressive. So,
Well, it's ending. It's
Yeah.
ending, which I like. Like, it's also, listen, it's the result of growing up in a boom, growing up with money, growing up where everybody around you is in many cases, even the people that aren't doing well are able to get by. It's coming of age during the Obama administration where there wasn't a ton of political turmoil. And now, now seeing Trump, a lot of these kids have turned off or whatever, they're like, because now it is politically turmoil.
Sure.
But a lot of the young people that we know came up in this period of prosperity and relative, like the country wasn't at war within itself. People weren't, those tea parties and those people in Long Island that would dress up like Thomas Jefferson, but nobody paid attention to them or should have. And at the end of the day, it's like now these kids are a lot of them are better prepared to handle this than I would have imagined because they've grown up digitally. Yeah. They've grown up on the internet. They don't really need human interaction. That's, a bonus to them. And a lot of them are figuring out how to make money online. They certainly take all their classes online. Having a job online isn't like a freaky thing to them. Like this is all, part of how a lot of that generation is going to work.
Sure.
It's going to be just exclusively digital.
I mean, the corporations are going to want to push it just because like, I think they're afraid. Like, media is probably afraid because they don't want their content to look like everyone else's, because in a few months we're all going to be making content, and like the only asset they have, is to have like higher production value and have these stars. Because like if we all just end up working from home and like scaling everything down, which like I'm working from home at the moment, and like the content's all scaled down, it's like. Then people who don't want a democratic revolution of like media, for instance, is the big media. They're the ones who have an interest in keeping it, condensed in the hands of a few. But yeah, I don't know. These young kids, they claim. I mean, look, you'll hear everything on Twitter, so you can't focus too much. But like, they do love to claim, though, hey, we were born in the middle of 9/11, and then we went to college with the financial crisis, and now as soon as we have a job, we're fucking this. Everyone loves to fetishize the how their victimhood and how gloomed they are. But I don't know. At the same time, you had these kids just kind of. There was a kind of lax vibe. I mean, you had the minority that were going for Bernie, and good for them, I guess. They wanted the health care, but they love to pretend like. There's assault on the boomers, for instance. It just kind of feels they love to. I mean, I guess there's a legitimate victimhood. I mean, there's a legitimate crisis, so it's hard to take a shit on them now. But they're probably loving this. Is my point. They're gonna fetishize this for years.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say. It's so hard to make any predictions because nobody knows where this will go.
Sure.
And this, really. Every system, every red light on every system is blinking red. Everybody's people using words like depression. It certainly seems like an economic death spiral.
Sure.
But it doesn't feel like one yet. Like
right.
It doesn't feel hopeless yet because we're only a few weeks in. There's hope. We're also heading into the summer. There's something that feels even more hopeful just about the summer than if this was happening in September and we were heading into a long winter. And whether that's true or not, I'm sure it's purely just in our heads. But there's something about us that we associate the summer with freedom. And, and that's going to fuck us up, I think, when we get to the summer and nothing's changed.
Well, especially if a lot of people don't have air conditioning and now they're stuck inside. I mean, it's
right.
It's going to be a real pressure cooker. It's going to be like that.
That's why I think we need to end this quarantine today. Today. End it today. There should be 1 million people in Central Park right now. What if there was 1 million people in Central Park right now dancing and doing Staying Alive? Staying alive, staying alive. Ha, ha, ha. Staying alive. I mean,
well, everyone wants to flatten the curve. But I mean, what if we just kind of like juke the curve up? And so, like, everyone gets sick at once.
The curve needs to be, there needs to be herd immunity. It's going to happen in 2 weeks. And
what you should be doing, you shouldn't be feeding nurses. You should be just putting out Italian dinners in the middle of the street, inviting strangers, like a big family-style meal, and get everyone together eating out of a communal bowl.
I mean, I got to be honest with you. These hospitals don't know this is coming yet, but I'm sending a bill for that food.
You gonna mark it up? You gonna make a profit?
What if I sent a bill for the food? What if I sent a bill to the hospital for the food?
Dude,
like an invoice?
You should be on your podcast every week, going after them like you're fucking like Lenny Bruce, just like talking about the cops on stage, just like reading invoices on stage.
Yeah, I'm like, and I just call the guy, I start yelling. I'm like, what the fuck did you think this was? I did you a favor, you piece of shit. I fucking got that food delivered. You thought I was going to fucking pay for all of it? Hey, we're all suffering here. What the fuck's wrong with you? I'll take you to small claims court, motherfucker. Like,
I mean, the courts are still running, right?
Amazing. It would be amazing if I did that,
I mean, honestly,
like if I was like,
look,
I was like,
the rule of law can't break down in addition to, everything else. We have to kind of maintain some civility. So like, these guys, these hospitals have had it too good for too long. These doctors have had it too good for too long. Someone's got to hold them to account.
It's like, guys, what do you fucking think's going to fucking happen here? You guys fucking think I'm going to fucking pay you away? How much are you fucking making? You make no fucking money in there. You fucking me? Like I start screaming. I'm like, you're fucking me? I mean, it would just be really phenomenal. Let's be honest.
I'll endorse. I'll pay the filing fees if you do that. Let's do it. Let's go to Legal Zoom. Let's get fucking Barry. Is he still alive? Who was the guy who was like promoting legal? He was one of the dream team, OJ's guys.
I don't know.
Who's Robert Shapiro? Remember Robert Shapiro?
You know what it is, man. I just don't want to be taken advantage of.
Did you see that story in the? I think it was. There was a woman who went from D.C. to Boston on a plane to go visit her dying mother for the day, and she was the only one on the plane. And like and she was like taking these selfies with it was supposed to be like this heartwarming story where like the pilots just made announcements just for her, and the flight attendant spent the whole flight listening to stories about her mother and all this stuff as she's about to go there to die. First of all, selfish. Look, it's very sad that your mother's dying, but it's incredibly selfish to go into a I only want to stay there for a day because it's a hotbed. So it's like it seems to me kind of selfish. You're going into a hotbed, then coming right back. And then like, which I get. It's very sad. Your mother's dying, but I mean, a lot of people's mothers are dying. But also, like, is this the new economy? Like, these flight attendants have it bad enough now you have to like, this is the new personalized vacation. You go and just recount. You talk about your dying mother for an hour and a half on a flight. It just seems grotesque to me. I don't know. These heartwarming stories never work.
Yeah, it's also like, what are we going to take her word for it? She's going to get fucked. You know what I mean? Like, what are we going to take her word for it? Oh, yeah, my mother's dead. I got to go see her. My mother's dying of COVID. You didn't hear that? Like, listen.
We spent a lot of years talking about the hustlers and the scammers. Wait, you like making a casserole? What's that noise?
I'm trying to find a fucking pan to fucking. I guess I could just I just bought a frozen pizza. I'm just gonna put it in the fucking oven as is. I don't need to put it on a sheet.
No, put it on the grill. Yeah, it'll be better. It'll get crispier.
It's like, all I've tried to do through this whole thing is help people and be a hero. And you know what? They don't even ask me to participate in like that. That bullshit, like comic live aid horse shit. I'm never asked to do any like. All these fucking trillionaires, and nobody gives it. Like, Well, I mean, it's a Live Aid, comics, get AIDS or whatever it is. It's like
the Cam Neely Foundation.
it's like, what is my manager doing? Like, what are you doing if you can't get me on this fucking Live Aid thing, you dumb fuck?
It's atrocious. It really is. Well, part of the problem, I mean, do they have like Sylvester Stallone on there for some reason? Like everyone's home?
I don't know, but I can be on like hour 4, which is like nobody's. It's like, get me on hour 4 of that goddamn thing. I mean, it's like, what do I have to do?
I told you years ago you should have made me your manager, but you didn't listen. I would have gotten you on that.
You weren't wrong, and I really want to fire my manager. He called me. He's like, I have coronavirus. So then, of course, I can't fire him when he has coronavirus. By the way, he doesn't even have it. I mean, he's lying, and he doesn't even know. He doesn't know what the symptoms are. It's like, my stomach hurts, my throat scratch. I have a scratchy throat. I'm like, neither one of them are it. But whatever. I'm like, I can't fire him, even though he has pretend coronavirus. It's just so funny. He's like, yeah, I have upset stomach. My throat is scratchy. I'm like, yeah, that's not the coronavirus at all, but
I have allergies, you fucking idiot.
Yeah, it's nothing. It's fake. He just didn't even Google the symptoms.
Right.
But it's just, dude. I'm just fucking so happy to just like, listen. Everybody's going to emerge from this changed in some way, And the way that I'm going to emerge from it changed is I'm just going to be like, listen. I never want to have a studio that's not in my house. That's what I've decided. I always want to have a studio where I live to do my podcast. And I'm going to go on the road when I want, like a few weeks every 3 months. And that's it.
Yeah.
Everything else is fucking done. Everyone else go fuck himself. I don't care. I'll do spots at the comedy clubs that'll have me if they're open. And other than that, I truly don't give a shit. I mean, I don't give a fuck, It's like...
Look, the entire apparatus of comedy, it's like a holdover of a distant time. Look, I hope, and not out of malice, but just out of like efficiency, I hope that a lot of this, if it comes back, like a lot of these hanger-ons and these fucking people who should have been out of this fucking system 15 years ago, just go do something productive with your life. There's so many like just kind of like adjacent people who like have found a way to kind of ingratiate themselves into a system that like doesn't need them at all. I mean, and with the whole digital revolution, with the whole podcasting and now you can just kind of, and Twitter, you can cultivate your own audience. You don't need, look, I'm not talking about like the actual, I mean, some of the clubs, sure, but like a lot of these fucking, like, these shittier clubs and these shittier fucking, and these bookers and these, like, these fucking people who book these independent shows, and these prima donnas. It's just, I mean, of course, a lot of old people are going to die, a lot of young people are going to die, but then the one silver lining is maybe this whole thing will get streamlined a little bit.
Yeah, it's going to be. And I mean, it needed to. I bet a lot of businesses needed to. There was a lot of extra, and this is a correction, and it's going to be brutal. And hopefully the government can alleviate some of that pain or whatever.
Do you think this is finally, I mean, I'm sure either way it's a death knell, because, I mean, real estate in New York, it never really dipped. High-end real estate never dipped really since, even in the '08 crash, it didn't really dip, right?
Yeah, it never did. It never did, but that's specifically because domestic money was replaced with foreign money.
Sure. But
there's a reason, like, it's not Manhattan, because people talk about that statistic, and it's like, it's not Manhattan's magic. It's just that they just replace the source of money.
Right, but because to your point, you were saying, and I think you're right. There will be a lot of people who will work from home going forward. They'll realize, but will that affect real estate in New York? Because the people who are buying it, like these foreign people, aren't usually buying. They're buying like these high-end luxury condos and stuff a lot of the time, right? So you think that'll take a dip?
I think two things are going to affect real estate in New York outside of the pandemic, which is quite obvious. And like, when we number one is that there are going to be a percentage of people, and I don't know who, but they're going to leave New York now. I mean, it's just what's going to happen. They're going to leave. I have a friend who's a realtor in New York. She said people are ready, going to her quietly and going, put me on the market. Get me out of here. I'll take a loss. I just don't want to hold anything right. I want out. They want out. There are people that are holding their apartments and they realize they're not going to be able to sell them at any type of profit for years, years, 24 months minimum. But then there are people that are like, I will take a loss. I just don't want to carry the cost of having this apartment. I want out. I want to be liquid right now for whatever's coming, and I need to cash out even at a great loss. So a lot of people are just going to get the fuck out. That's the first thing. So there's going to be inventory in like prices are going to fall, this, that, and the other thing. And I think the second thing that's going to affect real estate, specifically in New York and specifically in Manhattan, is like how deep is the cut of the financial turmoil specifically commercial real estate, like commercial real estate, because the commercial real estate market is going to get hit by this, and it depends how hard that gets hit. Like, do you see a commercial real estate crash similar to a subprime mortgage crisis? Like, do you see that, which is very possible, that you see massive defaults on commercial real estate, and that'll affect the real estate in New York, commercial, residential, everything. Just if you end up seeing a crisis similar to the '08 crisis, but in the commercial real estate, where like people are like, yeah, we are beyond fucked. We got to walk away, and there's mass defaults and bank failures and shit like that.
Do you think
but New York City is in trouble? Real trouble?
I mean, the fact that, look, of course, the value of commercial real estate is also extremely high in New York.
And a lot of people that are listening to the show know that I am a real estate developer.
Sure.
And me and you both run Thor Equities, which is a hedge fund.
Well, and we're doing quite well. We're involved in a lot of pandemic adjacent.
We always do well. That's what we tell our clients.
Mostly because, as I tell them, the stocks are fake.
Yeah, listen, Thor Equities, we say, hey, just get it done. That's our, What were you saying before I cut you off?
Yeah, because the thing is with commercial real estate, I'm not saying that it's not going to take a huge haircut or just massive, but there wasn't really like a bubble the same way there was in like the lead up to the '08 crash.
Right.
So I wonder like. It might just kind of be more like the new status quo, like almost like a Detroit, where it just kind of starts to rot.
Here's what it comes down to. What are businesses? How soon do people start spending money in commercial businesses again? That becomes the major issue. And are there rent freezes in the meantime for commercial businesses?
Right.
I can't imagine that, you're not going to see a significant, right now, nobody's spending money in commercial business. Now, we know that's not going to last forever, but even when these things reopen, what percentage of their business do they retain? And is there any debt forgiveness on the other end? Because if there's no forgiveness of debt, if there's no rent freeze for these commercial establishments, they're done, and it depends on, the larger corporations will swallow the smaller ones up. But and I was reading an article about that the other day where it's like, there were problems before, everybody's been talking about the commercial real estate crash that never came.
Right.
This is since '08. Everybody's been writing about it, the death of malls, the death of brick and mortar retail stores. You saw a transition from we always joke around about these shitty pop-up stores and these experiences and we're all of these the cereal store and it's all this bullshit, which are you know what I mean? Like they're packaging nostalgia and it's not enough. It's not just a store. Here's a DJ and I'll jerk you on. It's like a whole thing, and a lot of that came somehow replace. But it never materialized. People still wanted to go out, even though Amazon was taking a large swath. People still wanted to leave their home.
They want to go to the M&M store. They love the M&M store.
They still wanted to shop.
Right.
A lot of it was tourism. By the way, which is now dead.
Yeah.
But it's been the thing that everybody's talked about forever, and now it just seems like the logical culmination of every trend that everyone imagines, plus a stay-at-home order. There's a stop work order where consumption's dropped completely, and now it's just how do these businesses come back? Unless
and you would think
open up.
You would think that it would it's e-commerce is so big, but in the the years leading up to this, Amazon just gobbled up so much of the marketplace, and then probably Walmart and Target and a few other places are a distant second. But because when the internet was e-commerce, not quite the internet, but when e-commerce became a big thing, and I guess during the tech boom in the 90s and early 2000s, there were tons of stores. You would go to like different weird little websites. I went to college with a guy who was like a millionaire. He was like 18 because he made his like DVD website, and I went to it. It was a complete garbage website, but I mean, people he like his things were like $1 cheaper than everyone else, and like you were able to do that. And then like Amazon, what are you fucking like working a goddamn steam engine?
What? They're making a pizza.
Okay. But what kind of pizza? The pepperoni? No, I'm hearing rings and bells and fucking. It sounds like you're working at the Dirigible.
Listen, it's sound effects, and you're not being charged extra.
The fucking
and Jimmy Fallon, they broadcasted the Tonight Show with like a horrible resolution. It's like your listeners can handle the ringing of a bell.
I appreciate it. No, I appreciate you being here, but no, but like it's just like. You don't even have that saving grace. Yeah, some people are making money on eBay, and they're giving shit to these guys who are price gouging on eBay. It's a little distasteful, but I was able to buy flour. I spent $30 on a 10-pound bag of flour, which is an exorbitant price, I guess. I've never bought flour before, but we want to make some bread, make some tortilla wraps, and and people, look, I'm not gouging is distasteful, and sometimes it's gross, and like in a crisis, if you're gouging medicine, sure. But I mean, there's a logic for it. But the reality is, if this guy couldn't have made a huge profit by selling me some fucking flour, there's no flour in the store. I can't get it. So it's like, I mean, the only people who are besides Amazon who are making money on this shit is fucking price gouge guys with like Purell in their basement, and it's like
I don't hate on nobody's hustle.
Right.
I don't hate on nobody's hustle. I think if you got a vaccine, sell that shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sell a fake vaccine.
Well, that's what I mean. I don't mean a real vaccine. I mean, like, if you got something that you think has kept you safe from the Rona, sell that shit.
Well, Alex Jones loves to talk about that silver spray.
Oh, yeah.
And like, I think
you heard the FBI went after him, right? The FBI's like, you can't.
Right. You better cut this shit out. We're not giving. meanwhile, they're giving Rush Limbaugh the Medal of Freedom. Fucking going after this guy.
Right. Rush Limbaugh, the Medal of Freedom, after Rush Limbaugh said the whole thing was fake. Yeah, Rush Limbaugh's like, this whole crisis is fake, and he's getting the Medal of Freedom. That is hilarious,
I mean, it's also, it really, like he got that, and less than a month later, we're in the middle of it. I mean, it really was a bad omen. Oh,
yeah, it's just so perfect, Rush Limbaugh, Medal of Freedom.
You were a big Rush fan back in the day, right? You used to love Rush, right?
I mean, again, what do you say?
You used to love Rush, right? You were a big Rush guy back in the.
I always listen to him. I mean, I just don't listen anymore because it's like, it's one of those things where like there's certain ways you listen to certain things, right?
Yeah.
Like Rush Limbaugh, you have to be in Long Island, you have to be in a gas guzzling SUV, you have to be on drugs, and you have to be selling something. Like there has to be. When you take away even one of those elements, it's not nearly as fun. Like you can't. It just doesn't work. You need to have those elements. But I used to listen to him because he was very funny and he was amazing that he could go for 3 hours.
Yeah, no, he was a goddamn pro. You got to hand it to him on that. I
mean, it was better when he was wrong. Like the show was better when he knew he was wrong. You know?
Mean, just the idea. I mean, it's atrocious. Everyone brings it up, but like that whole thing with the healthcare, and he's like, "This girl wants birth control. What kind of whore is she? I gotta pay for her to be a whore." I mean, the leap. The leap you have to make is impressive. It's gross, but it's impressive.
I love when he told people after his first heart attack, he's like, "I paid all my own bills in there," and he wouldn't tell people how much because then people would be like, "Oh, I don't have that kind of money." Like he refused. He's like, "I'm not going to make it political by telling you how much I spent." And he clearly spent $400,000 with no money,
Yeah, but he only spent that because he didn't want like, if he did use health insurance, he wanted to like they flew some doctor in probably from fucking DC or wherever. It's not exactly.
He wanted to survive.
Yeah, it's not exactly a move like a move in solidarity with the workers.
No. Solidarity with the workers.
What do you?
Yeah.
What do you make? Moving on a bit. What do you make of this hospital boat? I mean, people now for a moment. I've talked a lot about this hospital boat. I've stoked a lot of fear with the hospital. I've said that it's probably gonna mow people down. It's gonna bulldoze. Obviously, I'm joking. Someone a train engineer near you in the port of Los Angeles, where we were about a month ago. We took a trip over there. And this is not some like Yahoo homeless guy. This is a guy who apparently is driving the train. He thought the hospital boat was like some kind of invasion ship, and or it's a maybe he's a Q guy. I don't know, but he tried to do a high speed derail into the hospital boat in L.A., which I find
yeah, and that's scary. But it's also like, what did these elite people think was going to happen when like you just fed everyone garbage and drugs for years, and then lied to everyone just enough so that everyone would develop, somewhat understandable deep wells of paranoia, and then take everyone's money. It's like, you have a population now of paranoid schizophrenics who've been running on cheap credit and sugar for their entire lives, and now they don't have any money, and now they're like trying to fight a war with you, and they don't even know how. So they're trying to derail trains and shit. I mean, it's gonna get crazy.
I mean, do you
it's
think
gonna be the fucking Turner Diaries?
I know there's a myth of American, not even just exceptionalism, but we're self-sufficient and we don't panic, we don't scare easy, but which I'm sure like network news would prove otherwise, in the ratings. But do you think 9/11 was the kind of the real big chink in the armor for like? Because like that fetishized fear for a huge part of the population. That kind of like the government kind of created a culture of fear. With like not just the attacks themselves, but the years following. Today's a yellow alert and tomorrow's a green one. We got reports of a cell in upstate New York and all this shit. Do you think? Do you think that kind of like was a big part of what led to this kind of QAnon type conspiracy culture in recent years? Hello, did we lose Tim?
Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah. The QAnon thing is a manipulation. So that is that somebody, whoever it is, has taken nuggets of truth and weave them into a narrative. And I don't know who's responsible. I don't know if it's trolls. I don't know if it's people in Trump administration that like this. I don't know who it is.
On a gut level, I mean, you don't know for sure, but on a gut level, do you think it's someone like fucking around in the administration?
Very possibly.
Yeah.
I mean, I have no idea. But so at the end of the day, it's like QAnon's kind of something different. It's like a whole different thing. Like what that is, I mean, like, the culture of fear and paranoia, we've always had in this country, and for good reason, because we are being lied to. Like, right. Gutturally you're being lied to here. You just don't know how and why. Like, you don't know how and why, but you know it's all bullshit. You just know it is. You just instinctively know it's fake. And you just don't know how. So, like, anyone that just kind of weaponizes that very defensible instinct that you have, because you're like, again, the amount of coincidences you just have to ignore. Kennedy, Martin Luther King, Bobby Kennedy, like all of these things that just have happened,
right.
Iran-Contra, this, that, the other thing. You have to ignore all of that, and you just have to go, the amount of shrugging you have to do to believe that you're being dealt with honesty in this country is, your shoulders would break. So, but then you get to a point with QAnon, which is interesting, where somebody goes, let me take nuggets and kernels of all that, and let me convince people. It's almost like, how could it not be somebody in the administration or with some type of vested interest in people loving President Trump? Because what QAnon is just, and I also think there might be institutional religious people getting involved, because really it's just a remarketing, it's a rebranding of Christianity.
Right.
These people are evil, we're good. I think it will eventually leads people back to, putting money in the coffers of like corrupt ministers and stuff. But like, yeah, I don't know that just a troll would have such an investment in propping up Trump, because this is what this ultimately seeks to do. It tells people that Trump is the only person in the world that is fighting against this cabal of rich, powerful pedophiles. So it's like it's either a foreign country doing it, or it's a bunch of trolls doing it.
Look, yeah, because anything's possible, but the idea that like someone who isn't buying into Trump, because Trump's whole thing is it's the massive huckster, nonsense. It's all like, I mean, just the blatant, like, it's not even plausible, the lying. So like, someone who's that, like, it's not like you have like it's not like Trump is bad. Like with the Bush administration, you had like Halliburton and the neocons and with the CPAC or the Project for the New American Century, PNAC or whatever. You had like vested interests and shit. But like with this, it's like the idea that it would be a troll. Like, why would they love Trump? Because they like The Apprentice? You know what I mean? Like, what would be there?
Maybe it's a long game troll by a foreign entity going, when none of this shit happens, when the storm never comes, maybe a certain percentage of these people pick up guns. You know?
Sure. I mean, yeah.
That's the other thing.
That's possible.
You know?
Do you think, look, I don't buy, when we talk about like satanic pedophiles, which are a thing, and it's overblown, the satanic element of it, but there is a certain level of Satanism, and yeah, it's...
Yeah,
and
occultism, yeah, all that shit. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. I almost wonder, there's such a lack of rhyme or reason to any of it. Like Rumsfeld made sense at least, you know, and fucking what's his name, Cheney made sense. The Iraq War was like, you know, a big work, but it made like, you saw why they were doing it. This almost kind of feels like it's some power of like getting the people into a state of just complete chaotic frenzy. It's almost like a massive occult ritual, like the early stages of it. What do you think of that?
I do think there's always been some interest in, you know, trying to manipulate people's minds, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, that, you know, it manifests itself in several different ways. But I think if you look at like the onset of like the 60s, the drug use, the LSD, the cults, and the way the CIA kind of used all these things and worked with a lot of these people, whether it's the finders or, you know, whoever, I think a lot of it was in the beginning, it was experimentation and treating human beings like guinea pigs and thinking about how you could terrify them and how far you could stretch their, you know, mind. Could you totally destroy them and build them back up? And, you know, I mean,
yeah, no, for sure.
People are into weird shit. I mean, that's the thing. This has gone around, like the Marquis de Sade, like people have been into sadistic, you know, the emperors of Rome, I think it was Nero, used to just go out and attack people on the street. I mean, these were, you know, like these were people that were.
I mean, apparently Tiberius supposedly was fucking infants in the mouth. I mean, you know, that's.
God,
that's what
I didn't hear that.
I mean, I used to read a lot of Roman history. The problem is, like, even back then, the guy who wrote that was a guy called Tacitus, who wrote.
It's like you're sitting in the COVID yard, you're saying Tiberius, and they're like, "Can you shut your mouth, please? People are sick here. They're like, I don't have COVID. I'll tell you right now, I don't have it. But I just came in, and you're just talking about all this shit. I mean, the ruling class has always had a predilection for incredibly, you know, dark and twisted shit.
Well, the problem is they look. You can't work your whole life or have your dad work his whole life and leave it to you for nothing. You need. I mean, it sounds terrible, but you need to have a perk, and the more permissive society gets, I mean, you know, you gotta start looking like you need to be able to do something that no one else is allowed to do. I guess that's part of it.
I guess that's part of it. I mean, it's been going on forever, though, so I think maybe it's more innate. Like we're just there's something in our species, maybe that I don't think it's exclusive to rich people either, but I think a certain percentage of rich people are just pedophiles and or sociopaths.
Yeah.
And they're able to control it and conceal it, and like they're able to facilitate it. And I mean, you know, it's hard to say, you know, but yeah, there are occult people. I think it's darker than people realize. My whole problem with Q is like the whole thing is just a broad brush of like everyone in Hollywood is a pedophile. It's like that's not true. But if you said that like pedophilia was a massive problem, it's a way. It's even if you went as far as to say it's part of the way that they arrange certain hierarchies in society and shit. I'd be like, yeah, probably with you on that in terms of like when you look at the way that it's used to blackmail people, you know.
Sure.
But when you say that my break with you is that Donald Trump, who didn't care at all about these kids for his entire life, when he was hanging out with Epstein,
right?
When he was like the guy had a modeling agency. Like, why did he have a modeling agency? Because he respects women. Like, what are we doing?
No, look, he clearly probably is a pedophile on some level. I mean, like you have to.
It's like imagine this is the only thing that I could compare it to. Imagine there is a huge conspiracy against meat eaters and the abuse of animals, and I come out and I'm like the vegan prince of freeing animals. And you go to my Instagram and Twitter and Facebook and go, all this guy's done his entire life is eat meat. what the fuck? Like, we're supposed to believe that, like what happened?
Right.
What happened in his mind that made him?
And
it
at least
just coincides.
At least W, not that he was just a cokehead and a partier, but at least he had a fake come to Jesus moment. Like, at least he pretended like
Right.
he had, like, he found God. Trump, there's never been a narrative where Trump, like, all of a sudden, like, gave a shit about, any of this.
Dude,
Like,
if you explain QAnon to Trump, he'd go, human trafficking's very bad, big problem. He wouldn't care. Like, I don't think he cares why the people support him.
it's very bad. I made a lot of money on it, but it's very bad.
It's a deep well of narcissism. It's like, and I'm a comic. I get it. Sometimes you win the way you want to win on stage, and sometimes it's an ugly win. Like, you point at a guy in the crowd and go, "Look at this fat fuck," and everyone laughs.
Right.
Because I'm fat too. I'd be like, "Me and you, man, we'd be fat somewhere," and everyone goes, "Yeah, that's true." So. And it's an ugly win. You're like, I didn't want to win that way, but I couldn't win any other way. I think very much Trump is that type of guy where he goes, I don't care why they're voting for me. Like,
right.
They could be voting for me because they think I'm going to arrest Oprah. Good. Like, just put him in a.
Someone says to him, they think you're going to arrest Tom Hanks. He's like, can we look into that? That might not be a bad idea.
Yeah, like he'd be like, by the way, that's exactly what he'd say. He probably wouldn't even say no. He'd be like, we're looking into a lot of things right now. We're handling a lot of, it's just the perfect president for this stage of America. Because when you look at the diehard Trump fans, the diehard people that truly believe in him, and what it is, you trace it back to, a lot of it you trace it back to the disappearance of not only religion, but of like community in this country, social clubs, people having any type of identity, people having any type of communal outlets, like people just being lonely and alienated. And those are the guys that, because their community now is QAnon, or on the other side, their community is social justice. Like, they go to these online digital communities to replace what used to be a bowling league. Bowling is now QAnon.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, the church, the local church, like in the town that I grew up in, the local Catholic church would throw festivals. They do all this bullshit. All of that has been replaced by just rabid loyalty to Trump. And it's like, oh, this is what happens when you hollow communities out of anything that bonds them together, and you just have people that are alienated, that don't even know who their neighbors are, that feel alone. Then they go online and they're like, well, I want a community. And then they quickly find these echo chambers of people that are charismatic. It's the same reason you have, those Islamic fundamentalist preachers. If you watch them, they're fucking great. They're like, wow, this guy's like really good. Like, one of my favorite Islamic fundamentalist preachers, he's a guy in Brooklyn, and you watch him, and his whole sermon is his defense of taking first class. He's like, it is nice to have nice things, yes. And everyone in the mosque is like, yes. He's like, God wants you to have these good things, these nice things. Like, and he was so funny and affable. You're like, oh, this is what we have. We just have alienated, lonely people that are Donald Trump's the most successful of these narcissists, but they're everywhere. Whether it's Gary Vaynerchuk or whoever, like, people are taking you in because you don't have a family and you don't have friends anymore. That you used to have friends that you would meet at the local bar. All of these shows, whether it's King of the Hill, Family Guy, The Simpsons, no one has 4 or 5 friends anymore that they go to the bar with. Like, nobody even has that. So people now are just so, I think, alienated that they're it's a wide open market for people to just build cults.
We really should get into that game. I mean, we're starting here, but
yeah, I mean, I'm trying, but I like to make people laugh too much. I can't, like, it's hard for me to be like,
so much of it,
here's
you're right.
how you're gonna make money, guys.
So much of it is, I mean, of the best guys, if you take a step back, is funny. It's the most impressive thing about some of these guys is that they don't break to laugh. They don't start cracking up.
Correct. That's it, dude. That's why I couldn't really do it. Like, the most you just hit the nail on the head, big time. The greatest skill of a guy like Gary Vaynerchuk is that he doesn't look at the camera and go, "Can you believe I'm fucking saying this shit?" Can you believe I'm doing and saying what I like? Can you believe I make a living like this? Like, I would respect the hell out of that guy if he looked at the camera even once and went, "Fucking guys, can you believe this?"
I mean, so much.
Like,
I mean, I remember in college I read Dale Carnegie's how, like, you know, that famous How to Make Friends and Influence People, and
yeah.
so much of it's like, you know, if you see, you know, you're trying to sell this a guy something. Like, oh, you see he's a fisherman. Start telling him about fishing, and then asking him. I don't know. It's weird. Like the level of insincerity that goes along with like success in this country. And it works. I mean, but like
Well, not only, but the Dale Carnegies of the world are the Dave Chappelles compared to the Gary Vee. Like
Right.
Dale Carnegie, they were actually saying something. Like Dale Carnegie, even in what you just described, was giving you some kind of advice. Like, look at the fishermen, talk about fish. I mean, the generic horse shit that they peddle now, whether it's Ty Lopez or Gary Vaynerchuk, they don't even break like Dale Carnegie or who's the big sales guy, Zig Ziglar.
Right.
They at least were like, all right, let me walk you through a sale. You sit down, you look at the prospect, you ask the prospect a question, you let him answer. They're at least going, dude, Gary Vaynerchuk, these guys are literally going out and going, crush it.
Oh no, but I wasn't even shitting on Dale Carnegie. I'm saying is like, but to succeed in America, and he's right. You kind of have to be this false person. Like you have to, and like, because I would never, like, I would always like, I looked and go, I see what you're saying, but I can't, in the good conscience, just like start like pretending I also fish or whatever, or start like pretending to give a shit. And some of it's also just I'm a fat slob.
But here's the thing: you are a person. I am a person. Most people are not people.
Yeah.
So, I mean, most people don't have thoughts, ideas, values. Like I was trying to tell somebody the other day, I'm like, I've never wanted to be at a music festival or in the green room with Drake.
Right.
I like going to the Continental Club in Austin, Texas, where there's 40 people. It's a bar, and I'm seeing James McMurtry. I don't think I'm better than the people that are at the Drake thing. It's just for me, what's authentic for me is the McMurtry thing with 40 people in a bar in Austin, Texas, because it's like that's as close to the reality of what that guy is as you can get, right? I don't want to see him at Carnegie Hall. Seeing him where he performs in Austin at midnight on Wednesdays, to me is like that'll probably go down. And I've seen Bruce Springsteen at the Garden. I've seen amazing things. But it might be the best musical performance I've ever seen because it was the most real. It's the most authentic. There was no corporate sponsors. There was no tickets. I think you walked in, you paid $5 or $10. Like everyone was there to just hear music because they loved the dude. And it was over. It was a 2-hour show. It was fucking wild. He played so many songs. But that was it. There was no other element. There was no fashion. Everybody was dressed like shit. People were dancing, but they didn't know how to dance. I mean, when everything about it. Yeah.
When I went to New Orleans, you go to Frenchman Street, not Bourbon Street, Frenchman Street. And like every bar you walk into, you buy a beer. And you're hearing the greatest music I've heard in my life. The greatest live music. And it's just nameless people doing stuff that blows your mind. And then, like, you know, it's a different world than, like, you know, the music and the entertainment, like, some, you know, and even what I normally consume. I'm not trying to be above it. It's like, oh, my God, it's like there's a level of manufactured just slop that we all just kind of, most of us kind of accept, even if we know better. You know, it's just
Yeah. I mean, it's just one of those things where, like, I mean, when you look at TikTok is people lip syncing. The movie quotes and songs of other people. It's amazing. They're building a following, lip syncing the words of other people. It's like Milli Vanilli's career was ruined. Yeah, ruined. These people have massive careers. Their talent is being good looking and or lip syncing. We've given up in this country in terms of art. We've given up across the board. So it's just kind of about how the end plays out. I mean, I don't know what art looks like in 50 years in this country, but I mean, outside of a few shows, the Americans, things like that, it's pretty garbage.
No, even TV, like the golden age of TV had been over for at least 5 years, 6 years, 7 years.
Yeah.
We're in a steep decline.
No, we're in a steep decline, and it'll only be accelerated, I think, by, you know, what's happening now, because in order to get people out now, I mean, it's going to be like, I mean, Broadway's done. There'll never be. I didn't take you to see The Ferryman, did I?
No, I didn't see The Ferryman. It's a shame.
It was so great. I mean, we're never going to listen. It's going to be, dude. Broadway is now going to be like Cardi B does a musical about climate change.
Right.
It's going to be so bad. Like she's going to be like, the polar caps are melted. That ain't fucking good. Like it's going to be so bad that because that's the only way they're going to get people out.
Doja Cat does
bad,
Hamlet.
Dude, they're not getting. You're not going to see an Arthur Miller play. I mean, I hope you are. You're
Right.
not going to see A View from the Bridge. You're not going to see. And dude, that's fucking sad because like that's where we're headed. And those are the only like you're just going to see this saccharine crap, which is going to be celebrity infested, and the celebrities are not going to know how to sing or dance, and they're just going to go on stage, and people are going to buy tickets to be in a room with a celebrity, and that's going to be the death knell. I mean, that's kind of it's already the death knell. Like Broadway was already 60% horse shit, but then you'd have 40% of like, okay, Death of a Salesman, The Ferryman, original musicals that are still kind of good. It's ending, and it's going to be, unless this turns around quickly, and unless they just start testing the vaccinations on the military and going, fuck it, it's for your country, shut your mouth, which they probably should do. And there's articles saying they might start doing that, where they might just be like, hey man, it's for your country.
What?
That's what it is. Yeah, they're thinking about just testing military.
But do they even need to do that? Like, I mean, I don't know much about clinical trials, but I didn't think they needed like to. I thought by the time they start testing on people, it's pretty safe, right? Like, it's not like.
I mean,
I don't
know.
No, I don't know. It's dark. Do you think they cure this thing and then like? I don't want to be stroking any fear here, but like, there's nothing to say that like we can't have another like next year or 2 years from now there won't be another virus. Like, and I don't know that we're gonna be any better prepared next if it happens again. Like you.
I mean, that's why I think this doesn't change. That's why I think things don't ever go back to normal in the way that they were. I think you're gonna look at fever detection as being huge. I think that biotech companies are going to pioneer a lot of type of fever detection, equipment and technology. I think it's very possible that to get into a concert, or a large gathering of people, you might have to go through some infrared thing. I think that, the only thing that'll save us now is technology and science. And I mean, that's all that'll save us. I mean, that's really it. I mean, listen, the best time to live in this country was from the 60s or 70s through, 2 weeks ago.
Sure. I mean, we shit on boomers, but I mean,
the best time to live in the world.
We shit on boomers, but I would have done what they did. I mean, I'm not any better than them.
We shit on boomers because they just haven't left quietly. That's all. The whole thing with boomers is just, it's not even that you looted and burned everything down. Just leave quietly, You can't have moral authority. It's like boomers are like if Ken Lay was like didn't kill himself and like so he became some televangelist. It's like just shut up. Like it's just
that's great.
That's my only real issue with like I regret not traveling. I look at the world, man. I'm like I wish I'd gone to Italy and Paris and all this bullshit, but I dedicated my whole life to fucking telling jokes in nightclubs. But it's like you look at it and you're like, wow, I can't believe that. Things are never gonna it's gonna be fucked, dude. Italy,
you have Doja Cat. You don't need Italy.
It's good. Listen, that ain't wrong. You ain't wrong. I mean, do you think Italy's gonna ever go back to being actually when are we gonna be able to go to Italy and get like a bowl of pasta and be like, hey?
I mean, a couple of years. Look, they'll vaccinate the fucking place. If we don't get another virus, which, to be fair, is not we went a lot of years without having one, so it's probably fine. The thing about Italy is they all live together, but are they going to change that? I mean, part of it's half that country is the houses, not every house, of course, but so much of that country is just really old and old buildings, and they value their old stuff. It's you have to bulldoze so much of it to make room for old people to live separately from their kids and stuff. I don't know. They all live on top of each other. That's part of the charm. So it's right. And they look. I mean, they have a certain passion for life the way they live it. So they'll get beaten down, but I feel like they're arrogant enough. They have a whole thing in Italy apparently, which makes sense. But I didn't know. I don't remember the word for it, but the governors had to be they kind of plead to not use. And there's a term for cleverly circumventing rules, and it's part of their culture. It's not, it's just to kind of be not outlaws per se, but to be kind of to push back against any kind of authority. So I mean,
yeah, but we have that in America. We have that in America too.
yeah, it's just it seemed more fun the way they put it though. It seemed more like like it was.
Right. So what are you saying? That that's going to help them or that
Yeah,
hurt them?
well, I think they'll come out of it and not necessarily their spirit might not be broken as much. I think I mean they got bombed to shit during World War II and they're still pretty they have a lot of pride. So I think they'll come out of it.
I mean, I just want to go to a nice Italian restaurant in Italy and be served. It's not fair to me. This is all not fair to me. I just want to go to Paris before it looked like fucking, what's the capital of Saudi Arabia? I hate when I have to fucking think to be racist.
Riyadh.
Yeah, I just want to go to Paris before it looked like Mecca. Can't I just go to France?
Yeah.
Eat a souffle and not get bombed.
I mean, I always say I always come too late. Like I came to the morgue too late. People are always telling me,
You hear Henry Kissinger writing articles like trying to prop up globalism and everything. He's like, we need a world order. Shut up. Fucking genocidal pig.
How is that guy still? He's the only one still pumping.
He's still, dude. He is. You're not kidding, dude. You want to talk about adrenochrome? That guy, he's the only one still going. We'll
wrap this up. What do you think drives a guy like Kissinger to keep? Like, was he 90 now? I mean, like, what is he even? I mean, he's seen the world kind of decay. And like all the moves towards
at that
globalism.
level. So I think at that level, it's a guy that like had such a huge influence for so long on the way the world actually worked.
Yeah.
And now I think it's, his version now is just writing op-eds and stuff. I'm sure he has a direct line that probably Trump and probably
you think Trump listens to him or he's just like, here's the accent and just zones out?
But I mean, like this multilateral world order bullshit thing that they tried to build is falling apart very quickly. Trying to save face for history or for whatever. Like he's trying to be like, yeah, no, guys, this is good. These supranational organizations are great that don't respect anybody's nationhood or, no, that's the way to do it. And every global system should be some weird financial system that people barely understand and it just benefits the rich. And, that's the move.
It's such a thing. It's such a move of whatever these people are, these globalists that like, I mean, for decades now, and like it's not just a minority thing. Kissinger is known for being whatever he was under Nixon, and also as a war criminal. Like, and it's such a huge prevalent thing. And like every fucking generation with the Iraq War, they brought him back. With this, they're like, why don't they just have him fucking take a curtain call and fucking bring someone else out? I mean, this guy is tainted.
But I think it also, I think you look at these guys. It's just kind of like this whole thing whether it's globalism or not. It's just people that want to control more territory, larger swaths of the world. Yeah. The same thing as Attila the Hun. It's just the export now is not, it's put in a better package, but it's the same thing. It's just they want power. They want to own everything. They want to control everything, and that's why they hate Russia. And I'm not saying Russia's good, or I'm not saying Venezuela's good or anything, but like they just hate people that resist being in the system,
right.
And that's what it really, truly is. And that's why, guys like Kissinger are still firing off op-eds because they're like, the system must be protected at all costs. That's really what these guys are invested in. Right. It's the system. And it's the system, and that's why you need the skull and bones and all the feeder societies and the bullshit and the, whatever it is that, elevates people so that they all can be counted on to protect the system. That is what you're looking at. It's the system over anything else. It's barely the country. I think the country is a part of the system. It's just America is just one of the ways to enforce the system.
Right.
And the system is the most important thing. And that's why you see all of these, elitists, they're groomed for the majority of their lives to be secretive, private people that, you have a lot of dirt on each other and are, enforcers of a certain code. That's really all what it is. I mean, whether you talk about the predilection for sexual violence or the degradation of women or children and the way that gets swept under the rug and protected, and like all of it is just because those people, when they are called upon, hold up the system and enforces it in whatever capacity they can. Could be writing an op-ed, could be putting a bullet in someone's head, could be securing mining rights. It's whatever they can do from their vantage. Could be just making a movie where they play a patriotic soldier because they got the narrative. It's like
Right.
in whatever capacity you uphold the system, that is, God, what a brilliant rant. I should have done it on my show. Listen, I have to take a shower.
Okay. Well, Tim,
right.
where can people find you?
If they don't know by now, fuck them. No, I'm kidding.
Fair enough.
Tim Dillon Show. That's all. And by the way, that's all that's left. I will not be coming to a town near you.
He's feeding doctors. He's speaking truth. Go listen to Tim Dillon. Tim, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Bill. They're getting the bill. They fucked me for the last time. Imagine. I just want to call that doctor tomorrow and go, are you out of your fucking mind? You think I'm going to fucking pay for your meals? You motherfucker, see you in court. What if I call the police on the ER doctor and say that they stole my debit card? All right, I'll talk to you later.
Thanks so much, Tim. It was a great Tim Dillon. Well, that'll do it for today. Thanks so much, everyone, for listening. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Ray Kump. Go listen to Our Love is Disgusting. Also, go sign up for the Kump Patreon. We do every Monday. A new episode comes out. And on top of that, just follow me. Be a part of the whole fucking thing. I don't know what to tell you. Go listen to Our Love is Disgusting. Stay safe out there. I'll see you guys soon.